Here on today's quick tip, we're talking about valves. Let's get this thing going. Welcome to the MASH. All right, just like the intro said, we're here to talk about valves. I got a whole bunch of equipment in front of me and we're gonna take you through it all one at a time. Let's start with the pressure relief valve. Now, in a homebrew system, you might be familiar with something like this. As the pressure builds in your fermenter during fermentation, you get bubbles and it off-gasses that pressure. In a commercial kind of cousin to this, it's actually dialed in and there's a vessel pressure that's set and it off-gasses anything above that. So pressure relief valves, PRVs, you'll see these a lot in the brewery when you're talking about fermentation. Next up, we have needle valves. So needle valves are cool because they give you a fine control over the amount of flow that your valve is controlling. So in this case, this is the head to my pump, and as I turn this, I'm turning it and it's closing the valve, or now I'm turning it and opening the valve. What's happening is I have this is going in and it's closing the gap, and as it gets to here, it's all the way closed. But when it's here, you have this fine granularity to how much flow is allowed through. So this is really great if you need good control over how much flow you have. And so that's why they would include that, say, on a pump head. Then next up, we have a butterfly valve. So I have one of those here, and the butterfly valve, I believe, got its name because these kind of have these big wings, and it sort of looks like a butterfly. You're gonna see butterfly valves mostly in commercial systems. They're great because there's no negative space around the valve. When you close it, you're making a good seal, and when you open it, you have a complete opening all the way around it. There's no space for contamination and any kind of soot to build up. I'll show you what I mean by negative space. This is a ball valve. You see the ball in there, and if you can tell, there's a lot of space around that ball where stuff could get built up, whether it be fluid or little grain bits, but that's what I'm talking about when I say negative space. And so with the ball valve, you have that problem. That's one downside to it. But on a butterfly valve, it's much easier to stay nice and clean and sanitary because there's no negative space. So that's a butterfly valve. So finally, we come to ball valve. So you got a little bit of a primer on it, but here's a ball valve. Here's how it works. As you open and close the handle, the ball has an opening to the bore size of the hose, and so it just opens up. Now, that negative space is what's my concern with ball valves, but it's not the end of the world. Here is kind of an economy ball valve, and this is a starter valve. It's gonna come on all of your equipment that comes with a low-cost valve on it. These are good, but they're hard to service. Then you start talking about a nicer valve, an upgrade. Now, these are both ball valves. Don't forget, the system, that ball in there is the same. This one's easier to clean and it's easier to service because there's 4 bolts, and I can take those 4 bolts off and take this all apart and get in there and clean and service it. But ultimately, my favorite is this one. It works with a tri-clamp and it simply pulls apart, so you don't need any wrenches. Toolless entry, and I can get in there and clean out my ball valves. And then what I like to do is I leave them open and let them dry out after a brew day. So if any moisture gets stuck in there, it can't evaporate out, it's stuck, it's trapped in there. So I like to keep my valves really clean, and these easy clean, easy access makes a big difference to how I can maintain my system. So that's kind of a good rundown on the main kind of valves, at least that are in my brew system. Comment below, what kind of valves do you use? What are you interested in? And let's talk about it. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next time. Take care. Cheers.